In this episode of Man vs. Marriage, I want a better marriage. Okay, well, what does that mean? You, in the corner, what does that mean?
The podcast.
How good do you want your life to be?
It's really about becoming the best version of yourself that's possible.
This is Man vs. Marriage.
The podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Man vs. Marriage. It is I, Quincy W. Moran, a.k.a. the Q Dog, in the Moran family studio with my lovely wife, Jeannie Moran. What's up, honey?
Not much. What's up, babe?
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot going on, but that's okay. We're going to talk today about I want a better marriage. Raise your hand if you've ever said that. Honey?
They can't see you.
But I still, it's just part of the exercise.
Got it.
You didn't raise your hand yet.
Moving along.
Just raise your hand real quick. Nice. Thank you. So, hey, that's a great thing. You want a better marriage. But I've got a few questions for you. Before I do that, though, don't forget to utilize our email address, Jeannie at mvsmpodcast.com and Quincy at mvsmpodcast.com. Now, Jeannie's name is not spelled like the magical being that gives you 3 wishes, even though she'd be big about Jinko Drew all the time. Her name is actually spelled Jeanne. So there you have it. Please go over if you see fit. If this podcast is affecting your life in a positive way, go give us a rating wherever you listen. I greatly appreciate it. I know we have a gazillion people who listen on Apple Podcast, and that's pretty easy to do. So please go give us a 5-star rating. The only thing that does is opens the show, makes it more available to more guys, gals who want to listen. So it just helps us further this particular program to help more people. So let's talk about this. I know we've both been in this place before where we say, I want a better marriage. Okay, it's not uncommon. Based on the downloads we're getting, people are looking for all kinds of help. They have struggling marriages. Maybe it's just you have that thought in your mind, maybe this could just be, it could be better. Now, maybe you're one of those people that's like, my marriage is great. Everything's awesome. That's good. Well, how can you become, more intimately involved if you so desire with your spouse? How can you, fortify and strengthen your relationship? Wherever you are is where you are. That's just where you're at. Where you want to get to, what does better look like? That is up to you. And the first question that I would ask you, feel free to email me. If you have my phone number, text me. If you want a better marriage, why? Why do you want a better marriage? I think that's the first place that questions need to start. Because what is the state of your marriage? How would you gauge your relationship? Mentally, emotionally, physically? Where's the fun? Does it have meaning? How are you positively impacting and supporting your loved one? What makes you both tick? How is your life sexually? Is it all you want it to be? Do you want that to grow? Why do you want a better marriage? Now, honey, I'm putting you on the spot, but why did you want a better marriage?
Ours sucked. At the place we were at when we first started seeking help, we were 2 people sharing a house with kids.
Is there any part of that that's like, the farther away we get from it, the worse it kind of was, but it was bad, but it wasn't terrible?
No, it wasn't. I'm not saying it was terrible. I'm saying that you and I, somewhere along the way, lost who we were and who we were together. And to me, that sucks because in our vows and our commitment to each other, we agreed not to do that. Mm-hmm. And we let it happen anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying it because it's like the further we get from it, the worse it was or the more horrible it was. It's just simply, it wasn't what we agreed to. And we wanted it better. I wanted it better.
Yeah, and what I do, like when I'm talking to different people when I'm talking to guys about the podcast, even when I'm talking to other, just gals and people in general, let's just say that. I say, look, man, when we got married, we signed up to have a great relationship. And sometimes in life, through circumstances and what life has to offer, sometimes you get off track. And we had just signed up to have a great marriage, and it wasn't going great. Now, not everybody's marriage in the beginning is perfect anyway.
Yeah. Honeymoon stage.
And, when you get into that honeymoon stage and you start having kids and you have financial issues, things can go south quick because you are here. Like as early on in our relationship as we had kids, we were still trying to figure out who we were as a married couple.
I think we were still trying to figure out who we were as individuals, too. I mean, we were young.
Yeah. Well, not that young. I mean, we were in our early 20s. But
I was 21 when Hunter was born.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
thinking about having a 21-year-old now, that's pretty freaking young.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I look back at it and, I thought our marriage was okay. I knew that we had some struggles. Every marriage I saw had struggles. I came from a broken home. My dad had been married a few times. And so you just kind of take that as, hey, it's par for the course. And without saying, wait a minute, anything that you want to do in this world, anything that's going to make a positive impact or anything that's worth having, why not make it great? Why not make it all it can be? Now, you and your spouse will determine what that looks like. For some people, they lead their marriage, they kind of lead more separate lives. They do a lot of separate adventures. They come back together and, they have their marriage time or their relationship time, and then they're off doing other things. For some people, you might be like Jeannie and I, who, the longer this goes on, the more we'd like to spend time with one another. And if we get the opportunity, I'd say 9 times out of 9.5, we'd rather be spending time together. Mm-hmm. Now, there's times where, we will go spend time with other friends. I don't do that a lot because I'm outside of the house so much. And if I'm not home, I'm kind of feeling guilty that I'm not home because I work outside the home and then I travel. So with that being said, I want you to look yourself in the mirror. If you say to yourself, or you downloaded this podcast because it said, I want a better marriage, and I want you to ask yourself why. And then take some time to make some notes in your phone or write something down to understand why you want a better marriage. And really paint the picture for yourself. And if you've seen the movie The Patriot, if you're in one of the foreign countries and maybe you haven't, that listen, to this podcast, maybe you haven't seen The Patriot with Mel Gibson. But if you have, I encourage you to refer back. He told, he was working through something in the wilderness with his sons, and he said, aim small, miss small. If you aim big, you're going to miss big. But when you start this, there are steps you can take, even baby steps, that'll make a big difference. So look at your relationship and say, well, I want a better marriage, but what does that even mean? That's like saying, I want to be healthy, but what does healthy mean? What are you actually going to do? What is the framework that a better marriage would mean to you? What are the things tangibly you could say, if this was better, I would have a better marriage?
Okay, so let's do this. You and I have a pretty good marriage. I think we have a very good marriage. However, there's always room for improvement. We're always looking to make things a little bit more. We made an agreement when we started doing this. It was good, better, best. I don't think we're all the way at best yet. We've still got some hiccups. We've discovered that in the recent weeks, that we've still got some hiccups. So let's do this. For you, for our marriage to be better than what it is right now, what would that look like? Where do you see we could make some changes or improvements?
I mean, the easiest the easiest place that I could point to, just because things are so recent, is how we deal with money together.
Okay.
And that, for me, looking at that, saying we get it right in so many areas. And I'm not even asking for perfection. I'm just asking for us to be in the same book. People say, hey, let's make sure we're on the same page. Well, we can both be on page 50, but if we're reading different books, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I just want us to be in the same book, because when it comes to finances and our ability to provide for our family, to me, there's a lot of trust involved there, and I want to trust you 100%. So maybe saying that, it's like, for our marriage to go and to sit in great for a long time, I want us to improve our level of trust as a whole. And
Okay.
what part is the missing part? It would be the part that has to do with money. Because sexually, I trust you 100%. Emotionally, trust you all the way. With having good intentions for me and having like a desire to make me happy, I trust you. So I would say for me in that area, I think our communication has gotten a lot better. Even though the other night, what spurred what happened in a couple episodes ago had to do with money.
Mm-hmm.
And that is probably preventing us from moving to whatever the next iteration of our relationship could be. And so that's me there. What about you?
I think the one thing that we've kind of gotten off the track with is our time together.
Mm-hmm.
We have had in the past where we guaranteed set time together, and that it just changed things for us, knowing that we had time coming up or preparing for time away, even date nights, whatever it was. It's just very different than what it is now. Like, we put a lot of effort and a lot of attention into what are we going to do together? Where are we going to go? What do we want to try? Mm-hmm. And that spans everything from where we were going to eat, where we were going to stay, what hotels we were looking at, to what were we going to, were we going to experiment with sex? Were we going to go buy new clothes? Were we going to go meet new people? What were we going to do? And I think that kind of put us both in a position where our communication was a lot better, because we were talking about things that were not household or business or family. It was solely concentrated on us. Now we have still had a couple of getaways. But this past year of getting away, majority of that has been because we have business to take care of. Trying to go find the rental house, going to visit your brother, going to look at places to go. We've had one or two where it was just us, but it just wasn't what it normally is. And I think it's just life has been a lot of chaos. And I think to get back, not necessarily get back to where we were, but maybe get there and then exceed it a little bit. That's why part of my excitement with this move is date night's going to be new every time, because we've never been here. Mm-hmm. So we don't know where we're going or what we're going to do. There's all kinds of stuff for us to try. And it excites me to think, what are we going to do together now? What new things are we going to figure out? I think that's a big one for us, because quality time is huge for both of us.
And I wonder, what is it that, we can do as we sit and check in with each other? How can we, like, when it initially starts to be something that's like, oh, I'm missing this, how can we fold that into when we're interacting, to say, hey, I'm missing this, I want this, or I want to bring this back? Because I would agree with you. I think after Thanksgiving last year, when it was a getaway for us, it was our anniversary getaway. We went and watched football, went and watched hockey.
We did things we love.
And even recently, like with prom, we took it as a as a chance to like get away. It was very short-lived, but we just took advantage of an opportunity. I would say since we put our intentions on moving to Texas,
That's where our focus went.
that is it went there.
Well, and that's partly because your work schedule. That's the only time we have is when you're not working is to finalize and draft and discuss what needs to happen. So for us, I think obviously money is going to be a big one, especially with the move because things are changing.
Right.
And so I think we need to focus on that. And I will wholeheartly try my damnedest to get on the same page with you and keep what we're doing going. I just have to keep myself in check is what it amounts to.
I think, and from what I learned just listening to you talk, it's going to take you challenging your own mindset.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of that going on right now. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Not that I'm perfect with it. I still spend money. I find little investments that I'm going to plug into. And generally, I'll tell you, hey, I've set this money aside for investments for us to try and make some money here or there. I'm not without reproach on that. I think my things that I do are just in much smaller increments than you do or whatever. But when that show gets published and you go back and listen to it, and that show was so raw. I mean, it was raw. It wasn't. I didn't know the show was going to go that particular direction, and I don't even know if. I think I'm going to name that particular episode "We Had a Fight" or something like that. It has yet to be produced and put out. But that's the deepest discussion that we've had when it comes to money. And we've told you guys that, listen, that we're not perfect. You know, we're a regular couple putting our relationship, there's a lot of areas where we're great. I mean, where we are great. And then there's some areas where we suck. We've even done shows called Where We Suck. And we've lightly grazed over the money thing. But each time it's like, me and my carrot allergy. Each time it seems to get a little bit worse, where it's like pretty soon you're going to need an EpiPen. It's what the doctor's saying. So for us, like when these things happen, I wonder how we can bring it up in the moment. Or when, like, I know I can tell just by looking at you, you miss those times. Like
I do, but I don't think I really put focus on it. Like when it hits and I think about it, it's like, oh, well, we've got this, and this. So, we'll talk about it. Or, we've just had so many different things going on. It's like, in my head, it's like, I can't see us spending $500 or $600 for a weekend away right now. We're just not in that position. So there's no point to me to bring it up because I already know there's nothing we can do with that.
I'll push back on that, and I'll say it like this. And right now it's just too late because time is gone. But I'd push back on it and say, okay, well, honey, this is me talking, as you to me, honey, you're a stud, and the way you make love to me is amazing, and I love you, and I wanted to talk to you about something. Just that approach is so
yes, because that's exactly how I would approach something.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And, just saying, hey, I want to discuss our getaways because I'm missing them. And so how could we start out by saying, how many free nights do you have on your Marriott? And then it's like, okay, well, I have this many nights. We could still make plans to get away, and we could take, like, as goofy as this sounds, and if it's not attractive, then tell me, we could take our food and whatever from home, like pre-cooked, pre-packed, whatever, and still take the time to go get away, where it just costs us gas if it does, no hotel, and just still be able to go and get away for a day or 2 days. I'm just I'm thinking about this right now.
No, I know. I'm saying, it's not that I'm not approaching it because I'm afraid to approach it. It's simply depending on what's going on in my mind. It's like, oh, well, this isn't feasible, so it's not worth mentioning right now because it's not feasible. That's how my mind thinks. Doesn't mean that I miss it any less. Doesn't mean that I don't want to try and figure something out. And 9 times out of 10, I'll start surfing around to see if there's a game or, something going on that we can do. But it's just kind of, I think that those are the places where we could get better. Communication definitely needs to open up a little bit. I don't think we're bad there necessarily, but I still think, obviously, because my mind told me it's not worth discussing something with you, that we still have some hiccups in there where, not necessarily with each other, but just with, how do you put it? Like knowing that it's never not worth a conversation, at least.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I love it. And I wrote something down here because I think cloud talks are big for us.
Oh, I love cloud talks now. I used to hate them, but I like them a lot now.
And I think something that would help us, and I don't know how we do it or what that even looks like. Maybe we can throw some stuff on the calendar because we do get really distracted by all that's happening. But if we could do some cloud talks centered around, I don't know why, I'm the H guy, I guess, here now. It's like heart, house, and happiness. Just really get ourselves centered around spur of the moment talks, or if it is date night, it's like this date night, we, part of the conversation this one time is going to be a cloud talk about heart, house, happiness, those things.
Well, I think we'll have more opportunity now too, because when we get out there, we're going to be doing a lot of adventure driving, and you and I have really great conversations when we're driving.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely something that we could work on.
But getting those things, and I know it sounds goofy, and maybe they do slow down a bit when we're not trying to move all 10 of us and, get rid of 20-something years of stuff within a house, etc. Maybe it slows down and we are more mindful. I think for us, listening to us, we get tunnel vision. We'll get extremely focused on
task at hand,
whatever we're doing, and that distracts us from some of the things that we've set up to help us.
Yeah.
Which we keep talking about, those coffee talks or the calendar talks or whatever it is. And with, all the moving we've been doing, just allow those things. It's easy not to do them. It's also easy to do them if you kind of weigh the pain of either decision, the pain of taking the time or the pain of not doing it. So which pain is going to be worse? And the pleasure that comes from going ahead and just doing it and not feeling like, because it might involve money, not feeling like it's not even worth a discussion. I love going to the clouds. I'm the proprietor of Let's Go to the Clouds. And you are the proprietor of having the, Red Bandit machine gun and trying to shoot my plane down. But now you like to fly in the clouds with me. So if we go on the good, better, best scale of marriage, maybe right now we're hovering around the best and the good in between there, and we're trying to get back to being firmly into that better, working towards the best. And how can we do that? I think we've pretty much spelled it out, as a great exercise for the listener. And for me, it's trust, and for you, it's quality time and communication. Mm-hmm. And those are things that mean a great deal to us both. I mean, trust means a lot to you. Mm-hmm. Quality time means a lot to me. Communication means a lot to me. So as I kind of run this lap back around to, you want a better marriage, you've asked yourself the question, why? And you better freaking answer it. You can't be general here. This is not.
There's something that made you want a better marriage. So what is it that's lacking that caused you to say, I think we could do better at this?
Yeah. Or maybe it's not what you thought it was going to be. And why is that? So when you write down like your mission statement, why you want a better marriage, what 3, 4, or 5 things do you want to improve? I mean, write them down. And then like in the business world, you can stack rank them. what matters the most? What's going to make what's the fastest turnaround with the highest impact? That's kind of the things you look at. And is it feasible to do that? And then I always encourage you to go and look and say, well, how many of these things that you want to change start with you? I'm not saying you're the problem in your marriage. It takes two to tango, or it takes two not to even, get on the dance floor to start the tango. And sometimes you can be out there tangoing by yourself, which sucks. But how many of these things, earnestly, might start with you so it's something that you can start putting into practice now? You can take this scale that Jeannie gave us and talk about your marriage in terms of a good marriage, having a better marriage, or having the best marriage, and maybe ask yourself and then ask your spouse, where do we rank here? Maybe you don't even rank in the good category. We've been there.
Yeah.
We've been there. Thank God, 10, 12 years later, we're, kind of fluctuating. Now, there's areas of our marriage that are probably in best. There's areas of our marriage that are probably better. Obviously, there's areas of our marriage that are good. And then there's some areas, like we've mentioned, that could use some improvement. Maybe our quality time is good, but we want it best. Maybe it's worse than good, and we just want to get it back to good. Maybe our communication is good, but we want best. So we got to figure out how to move it over to better. And what are those steps? I mean, we just kind of articulated it. Jeannie did too, just really well, saying, she needs to challenge that mindset she has. We're thinking it's not even worth a discussion. And I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but when I hear something, I'm going to figure out reasons we can instead of reasons we cannot. That is just how I'm wired, thankfully. So when you look at why you want a better marriage, you really need to articulate, well, why do you want it? What does it look like? And what are a few areas that you would like to see improve? And then go ahead.
I keep in mind, though, we're not asking you to say what areas do you think your wife can improve in, or what areas do you think, your spouse can improve in. We're saying, what areas can your marriage as a whole, like Quincy and I discussing this, it's not just where can I get better at money, it's where can we get on the same page in the same book, because we have a very different way of looking at money. So we need to find a compromise. And now if that means we need to find someone else to help us find a compromise, or if it's just something where we attack it together and we agree these are the ground rules and this is what we're going to do, we have to agree that this isn't just a what can you do to get better. It's where do we both bend on this? What has to happen? The same with the going places and getting our time together. It's not just about what do I want and where do I want to go. That's not how our time away works. Sometimes he plans things based on just wanting to take me somewhere and wanting to treat me to something. Sometimes I plan things because I want to surprise him and take him to go experience something that we haven't done before. Sometimes it's just the two of us saying, we need a weekend away. Get on your phone. How many hours can we get away? If we can only get an hour and a half away, okay, cool. What's in the area? Where are we going to eat? Is there a movie theater? What are we going to do? It's taking the initiative together to say, what can we get? What can we do to make this better between us? It's not a finger pointing thing, so don't go that route. This is more of a exercise of talking it through and seeing, where do you see we could do a little bit better, rather than this is what I think you should do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
that's
think
a fight waiting to happen.
I think too often it's like, I want. But then it's like, okay, well, what does that actually look like? What is that? I want. Okay, well, what does that look like? You need to, I know I just repeated myself, but it's worth even saying again, I want. Okay, well, what does that
Think of
look
it
like?
this way. The simplest terms, and this is one of the things that Rita did with me a long time ago, was you want a new car. Okay, cool. What does the car look like? What color do you want? What kind of car do you want? Do you want a sports car? Do you want a passenger van? Do you want a family car? Do you want, she used to joke with me, you want a Challenger. Okay, what does your Challenger look like? Oh, dude, it's crimson red. It's got a black gray stripe. It's got a big sticker on the back. The inside is black, got a little bit of red to it. Got nice, sweet tires on it. I mean, I could tell you to a detail what I wanted in that car. Why? Because I took the time to determine, what does my car look like? What does this thing that I want so badly look like? So when I go to get it, I'm not just going to let somebody walk up to me and say, well, I've got this gray one over here, but that's not what I wanted. I'm not going to settle for something that's not what I want. You have to know what your aim is. If you don't know what you're going after, you're not going to get it. You don't get on a road and just drive and not know your destination. At some point, you got to figure out where you're going to stop and get gas. You got to know where a gas station is. That's the same thing with all of this. If you know your communication sucks and what you want is better communication, what does it look like? Does it look like going out to a coffee place and sitting down and talking about your dreams and your visions and what you want to do? Does it look like sitting down at a table and discussing daily events and family things with your kids? What does that look like to you? If you were to sit down and close your eyes and envision a conversation, what does it look like? It's knowing the details and then saying, okay, what is it going to take to get that? What do I need to do? What's my part in this? And then going to your spouse and saying, this is what I'm trying to do. I think you could help me with this. Could you do this? That's how Quincy and I have approached most things, is this is what this looks like. Okay, I'm not seeing the same thing you're seeing, so help me understand. What do you need from me? How can I help you get to this? It's the same thing with this. You guys have to have at least a shared thought or vision of what this can look like. And then you just have to figure out how to go after it.
Yeah. I agree with just about everything you said. I don't know how literal people will be out there when it's like, well, this is the way I want my communication, and I'm not going to settle for anything less because there's another party involved.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's more of, if you know it's crappy, don't settle for it being crappy.
I agree with you. That's why I just wanted to kind of bring that caveat, because some guys that listen to this podcast are extremely concrete and will have in the past, I'll say, let's take the engineer guy, email. And it's like, well, I went out and shoveled the snow and you should be proud of me, and you're not. So now you're not allowing.
But that was an expectation. That was an unspoken expectation. So
I agree. And I'm just.
I get what you're saying.
I just wanted to kind of flesh that out a little bit so the guys know. I think what you gave was a sound illustration and something that we can all learn from, and going to your spouse. And, I kind of like this idea of saying good, better, best. It's like, honey, this is, if we were to put our relationship on this particular scale, good, better, best, where would it be? And where would you want it to be? Because maybe for you, good is good enough. Maybe that's the expectation you have. And maybe for you, better is where you want to be. You don't have to have best. But maybe for some of you, best is where you want to be, and you're sitting at good right now. So it's not like you necessarily have to be disappointed. You just know that your heart has more capacity. So you want to fill it. And you want to fill your spouse's heart. Because really, what will you be left with when this is all said and done? It's the impact you make on the people in your lives. So that's why it was important to me, going all the way back to the exercise and saying, well, what the heck would I want my wife and my kids and my friends to say about me at my funeral? And how can I live up to that? But it's within me. I want to be a guy who makes a very positive impact on the people that he loves. And so for me, I think best is the category where I want our hearts. So I'm going to invest, no matter where I'm sitting now, I'm going to invest to get to that place of better. Well, what is it? Can you get there in one instant? No. It takes time. It takes intentionality. It takes understanding figuring out what are your needs. Because I think we're both in a place right now with all that's going on that if we were to just be asked on the spot, what are your top 5 needs? It's like, I don't know, I just need to get this crap done because we're moving.
Right.
That's what I need. But those aren't going to meet your needs emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why this exercise to me is very important. Because if you want something, you need to understand why you want it, and then understand what that looks like, and then pick the things out that are going to help you get there. And remember, there's another party involved, and maybe if she's asked, hey, on a scale of good, better, best, where do you think our relationship is? Be ready for the hard words. Who knows? I don't know your relationship. Where do you want it, and where do you think it is? And what's one thing that can make it better for you?
Start small.
Start there. Start just that simple. And then dedicate yourself to being consistent at whatever that is. Communicate when you're not. Own it when you fail. And just put intentional time behind those things. And that will help you get a better marriage, whatever that looks like. What do you say? Good?
I agree.
Well, thank you for agreeing with me, because I always feel better when you agree with me. And I mean that. It sounded fake, but I actually did mean that. What?
Nothing.
Okay. All right, that's all the time we got for this episode. That's Gene Moran. I'm the cute diggity dog. And this, hey, don't forget, if this is impacting you positively, go give us that review. Am I begging by now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to beg anymore. I'm not about begging. All right, thank you very much for listening. Understand that if you are listening to this podcast, it's because you're a super stud and you are a good person on this earth. Anyway, that's it. This Man versus Marriage.
The podcast. How good do you want your life to be?
You gotta live on purpose, for a purpose.
It's truly about becoming the best version of yourself that's possible. This is Man vs. Marriage, the podcast.